This is A Line Around Your Thoughts, a podcast that centers on conversations with artists, writers, musicians, and creatives from around the Inland Northwest. I'm your host, EJ Iannelli, and I am joined in the Rocart Media Studio for this episode by Aaron Spickelmire of the Spokane International Film Festival, which begins on March 6th. So welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, EJ. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that that you're prepared to discuss all the things that we have to discuss, which is, something like over a dozen feature films and close to 50 short films that are part of the 2026 festival.
Yeah, absolutely. We do, for the 3 days that we're on this year, we have a pretty jam-packed schedule this year. So yeah, we tried to cram in as much content as we could.
Yeah, and you're taking place at various locations. Now, the Magic Lantern seems to be the hub of a lot of things, as it often is, but you've also got films showing at Myrtle Woolson, and you've also got films showing at Garland, no?
That's correct. Yeah, we're opening at the Myrtle Woolson on the 6th. We're actually doing, prior to our movie in the evening, we're doing a free program called Catching Train Dreams. It's going to feature some of the local cast and crew that worked on the film. Not any of the big names, unfortunately, but just a lot of the local folks who worked on it. It's a free event, starts at 10 a.m., and we do recommend an RSVP, but it's a good way to learn about the filmmaking process from people who have hands-on experience with it, and you can get a general feel of what working on a film in the Inland Northwest involves.
And is it going to be like a Q&A or a panel discussion or something along those lines?
I'm sure it'll involve both. We'll have a number of folks, both mainly behind the camera. I don't think we'll have very many actors, but yeah, it'll involve a Q&A with our moderator, and then we'll have a panel discussion with the moderator, and then a Q&A with the audience afterwards.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because I mean, Train Dreams made a pretty big splash here in Spokane when it appeared, and
absolutely.
Yeah, and so it seems fitting that you would start the festival off with that. Because it'll be a big draw.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, the Oscar nominations that it received did not hurt at all.
Hey, speaking of Oscar nominations, now this is something we were catching up, and you had mentioned that some of the films in prior film festivals or prior Spokane International Film Festivals had received Oscar nominations subsequently, and then kind of made it into cinemas as well. So the Spokane International Film Festival, I don't know how much of a track record it has, but it certainly has been, and the festival coordinator, Pete Porter, has done a lot of good selection of Oscar-nominated or Oscar-winning films.
Absolutely, yeah. He's really good with the animation program that we have. Worlds of Animation is the title for it this year. But he's very good at picking out those things. The one film this year that we ended up being Oscar nominated was, I want to make sure I get it right, The Girl Who Cried Pearls. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in the past, I would say 2 or 3 years, if not longer, we've ended up having at least one, if not two, Oscar nominated films in our animation program that usually get nominated within that same year that we're showing them.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely being at SpIFF gives you a VIP access to watching things that in the future may receive an Oscar nomination or are on the cusp of receiving one.
Yeah. And as part of that opening program or that opening day, I think one of your earlier films is Evergreens, kind of setting the tone for the festival. Mm-hmm. And this stars Darby Lee Stack, who, I wanted to check out her film history, and it looks like she had actually been involved with The Holdovers, which was a non-Christmas film with Paul Giamatti. Oh. And so it's nice to see, these young actors who are kind of building up their resumes, and now she's got this lead role in a road trip movie that originates in Spokane.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a good thing for young filmmakers to use us as Spokane, at least, as a stepping stone to move on to bigger things. But yeah, that was a locally made film. As you say, starts in Spokane. It was shot throughout Washington State. It's a road trip movie, so they moved from Spokane to the west side of the state. But a lot of local people worked on that, local actors. There's one of the actors that has kind of a cameo at the end. He was a regular on Z Nation. So we have it's a very good film to start off with. It's been on the festival circuit for almost a year now. We're catching it at the end of its festival run. So it's at least a Spokane premiere. But we thought it would be a very good way to start off, being again, locally made film and kind of feel goodish at least film.
Yeah, it's interesting, and of course, knowing the area, the intro of the film. Red Dragon, for example, features. That's one of the restaurants that they go to, and so it's interesting to see these local landmarks. But you also have an awareness of the proximity of these landmarks to one another, and so you can say, well, they wouldn't be able to get there in that amount of time. So it's interesting because this is these are the questions or the knowledge that maybe doesn't necessarily exist when you see Hollywood films and they're shot in these exotic locations. But when it's your home turf, you can say, oh, I see, the illusion that they've created here of this park being here and that sort of thing. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's Evergreens, or there's Catching Train Dreams, and then Evergreens. And then I think you move into the Docs and Donuts pretty quickly. And this is a new thing for this year. Now, talk to me about this Docs and Donuts programming.
So it originated basically out of all the good content we had this year submitted to us. We had a number of shorts, again, hence the name Docs and Donuts. We had a number of documentaries that are shorts, or were kind of a mid-length between like a half hour and 60 minutes that we wanted to showcase them, but we just couldn't fit them in with kind of any other way, whether with a feature or anything else.
It's a weird timing, it's neither full feature length nor short, nor dedicated 14 or 20 or 35 minute short.
Yeah. So in order for us to highlight those, we decided to start basically an hour early than we normally do, at 10 a.m. instead of 11 a.m. And as we were discussing this at one of our board meetings, it was one of our newer members that we elected her to the board this year, Chris Singletary. She mentioned just offhand, I'll bring the donuts. And so Pete just kind of took off on that and said, oh, well, why don't we call it Docs and Donuts? So it just kind of originated organically out of us brainstorming, how can we bring these well-deserving pieces to be shown at the festival.
And how do donuts factor in? Is someone actually bringing the donuts?
That is the plan. Absolutely, yes. Not sure where they're coming from yet. It'll be somewhere local.
Okay, that's good.
But we will definitely have donuts, and I'm sure someone will have coffee available as well.
Okay, and so this isn't just one block of showings. The Docs and Donuts makes repeated appearances. It's almost a framing for some of these films, and so it seems like there are various Docs and Donuts programs throughout the entire film festival.
Well, for the Saturday and the Sunday mornings, yes. We are doing 2 programs a morning. Since we're going to be showing them the Magic Lantern, we're going to utilize both of the screens. So we'll do one in one theater, a different one in the other theater. Sorry.
No, there's a lot to keep track of, and for accuracy's sake.
We're showcasing. One of the programs is like a compilation of 3 different short films, not related to each other, but just wanted to showcase them. One of them actually is a short documentary about Vision Quest and its history in Spokane. It was shot last year at our screening of Vision Quest at the Fox. And this is like a 6-7 minute short, but it does fully illustrate how Spokaneites really love Vision Quest and how it really helps to showcase Spokane. Even 4 decades later, 4 decades on, it really helps as a way to showcase the city. And then we're also featuring some indigenous mid-length films. They're basically about an hour each. One is called The River Remembers, and the other is Medicine Ball. River Remembers involves dam removal, I believe.
In the Elwha River, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's interesting because I think this is a component of hydroelectric power. You know, I watched it with my wife, and we were talking about how hydroelectric power is, I think, in the popular imagination, always envisioned as a clean and low impact form of energy or power generation. And you know, the case of the salmon, or the plight of the salmon, I should say, highlights just the ramifications of this that aren't necessarily always considered. And so it's a really interesting documentary in that regard, because it talks about, you know, the dam removal and you know, this effort to reintroduce salmon.
Yes, and yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a very important topic that is not discussed as much as it should be when it comes to the hydroelectric power conversation.
Yeah.
Yes. And then also the Medicine Ball also involves indigenous tribal members. That's more of like a sports documentary about these tribal students who are introduced to basketball and how it's helping them. Sorry, I'm sure you'll edit this.
Well, it's got kind of a therapeutic element to it. No,
Thank you very much. That is a better way to put it. They use basketball as a therapeutic method to deal with all of the issues they may be dealing with as Native Americans, as living on reservations, all of that, all of those aspects. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of this, there is a ton of indigenous programming in this festival. I think if you were to tally up the proportion, the ratio would be much higher than it has been in years past.
I would say so.
It seems that way to me, and maybe I'm misremembering years past, but it seems to be you know, a larger portion of the programming, and I'm really encouraged to see that. Now, you said that Frances Grace Mortel is a newer addition to maybe the programming committee, and that she was guiding some of these selections and making sure that there was more of an indigenous presence.
Yes, that's correct. She's been involved with the programming with us for several years, also as a board member as well. And yeah, she really helped lead the way on this front along with other folks, of course, with programming. One of the big highlights that we have in that vein with the indigenous is the world premiere, actually, of a documentary called Reservation Redemption. And we actually are looking to have the director and several members of the Colville tribe be present at that screening that we're having.
Now, I did not catch that. What is the quick synopsis of that film?
Very quick synopsis. Again.
And while you're looking up the synopsis, I noticed that there's we'd mentioned a few of these films, but there's also The Snake and the Whale. There's also Meadowlarks, and there are a number of other these indigenous centric features or indigenous made features, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are always looking to highlight our indigenous communities as much as we can. They're a very important part of the area, obviously. Yes, thank you for the time. Briefly, I'll just read it out here. So, one juror away from the death penalty at 17, a lost Colville tribal member known as Chief discovers his culture and identity and makes a change that inspires a following of fellow Native inmates toward the Red Road. So, sounds like there's a lot of background information that will be covered in the documentary that covers that, and I'm sure the director and the members who will be attending can speak to that, to the experiences that the documentary will cover in more detail.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a good companion piece to Meadowlarks, because I know that focuses on members of the Cree tribe. I think it's 4 Cree siblings, and I believe this is a fictionalized account of a documentary that had appeared earlier.
Yes.
But these 4 siblings are reunited after a Canadian legacy of separating Indigenous children from their families.
Yes.
And so it's so it sounds like there's this theme within these movies of rekindling that relationship with an indigenous or tribal identity.
Yes, I would say so. That's a very good observation on your part.
And so, yeah, you've got another film that's on. This is on March 7th. So you've got a really jam-packed schedule. But WTO 99, and this was one that I was keen to watch because this is a documentary about the WTO riots that took place during the in Seattle during the World Trade Organization congregation there, and it was crazy because I was in Seattle living on Capitol Hill at that time, and Capitol Hill was the area that a lot of the protesters ended up getting pushed to during a very aggressive police operation.
Yeah.
And so this was Ian Bell. I don't know if you have had a chance to see this film, but
I haven't. I have not, unfortunately. I am looking forward to seeing it, though. But yeah, it's definitely. I mean, given current events, it's definitely something to revisit and to understand how maybe this little minor conference that's going on. I mean, again, the World Trade Organization. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But maybe this one event that's going on does have repercussions that still are impacting us today. 25 plus years later.
Yeah, and I think the film makes that clear. And what was remarkable about the film that I found is, we think of our current day as being phone saturated or screen saturated, but this was compiled, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to think of a scene in the film that isn't from like found footage or footage that was captured at the time. There are some news accounts, but it's really fascinating that this entire documentary, for the most part, was compiled out of firsthand camcorder accounts, and so it just it highlights aspects that even though I was kind of present on the periphery of that stuff that I had no idea was going on. So it was kind of interesting.
Well, definitely. And this, I'm sure this will be covered in the doc as well. The issues that those folks were protesting at the time are still relevant today, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it was, the WTO was a relatively nascent organization then, and now has a much longer legacy. And I think the documentary covers some of this in the epilogue. But it was it hit home just because it was something that I had experienced at one slight remove, but was still there, and remember the broken windows and the plywood very vividly.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely that's for when that happened at your stage of life when it happened. I'm that definitely leaves a mark. I'm not surprised that it did.
So you had mentioned the Worlds of Animation and The Girl Who Cried Pearls as one of the Oscar picks, but there are the Night Boots and Hypersensitive and Cardboard that are also among the Worlds of Animation. I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of the animation or if that's going to be a surprise on the day.
It'll be a surprise to me on the day. Again, the animation has really been Pete Porter's baby for a number of years now. He has a very keen eye for what quantifies as good animation, maybe groundbreaking animation. We've had some animated shorts that the way it was animated was very intricate and took years to do. There was one in particular that we screened a number of years ago. I can't remember the title, but it took the filmmaker, I think, at least 4 years for him to make it, because it was a very slow process. But yeah, Pete definitely is our animation guy, and he picks a lot of good things for us to show. Not all of it is kid friendly. I will say our content does tend towards, most of our content, not just the animation, does tend towards mature audiences, I will say. But the animation is more of a family friendly screening than some of our other ones are, I will say.
Yeah, and do these individual these individual blocks of programming, like the queer shorts or the worlds of animation, or even Dogs of Donuts is relatively untested, but these other two, Best of Northwest has also been fairly long-standing.
Yes.
Do these draw? Do you see the same festival crowd attending these, or does each block of programming draw kind of its own audience? And do you see a unique audience at that block of programming?
No, we definitely have repeat patrons that come year after year, and we greatly appreciate that, of course. But no, I really think it depends on the content we have each year. That we have our repeat patrons, but we also draw in different or new and different attendees every year to our programs. And sometimes they're only hearing about the festival for the first time. Sometimes they are coming after years of not coming. And yeah, I think it just really depends on our programming. But we do have a very loyal following in town, that people do look forward to the festival year after year. I mean, personally, I am usually asked by those repeat patrons throughout the year after a festival is done, middle of June, October, how's the festival coming along? How you doing for next year? So we definitely have a loyal audience in town, but we are always looking to expand that audience. And I believe our programming this year and every year is, we always endeavor to enlarge our audience. Yes.
And do you find that, you had made the case earlier about, or we had talked about the festival being such a good opportunity to come and maybe see films early, but this is also, it caters to people who just value filmmaking and who value the art, the craft and the art of making films, and just the sheer enjoyment of watching films that don't necessarily appear, you're not necessarily going to see them anytime soon, at least on the AMC or in the AMC cinemas. And so as far as that audience goes, how is Spokane a film town? Is Spokane a town that really values the craft of filmmaking and savors this experience to see all this stuff from all over the world, plus stuff that's homegrown?
I mean, I'm kind of biased, but I would say yes. Just not only from being involved with the festival for years, but also just from my prior experience working at the Magic Lantern, which does value, local cinema. But I would say yes. The film community that we have in town definitely does value the craft of filmmaking, the art of filmmaking. We have folks who work in the industry, mainly North by Northwest Studios, who definitely value that craft. But the general audience, it is sometimes tougher to draw in those folks, especially if they only go out to the AMC or Regal to see like a Marvel movie or something, or a big action film. But we always try to endeavor to draw in the biggest audience as possible that we can, and try to engage with our patrons and with the film community in general as much as we can, to try to bring as many interesting and entertaining and important films to the area that we can. The shorts programs, for example, you're definitely not going to see those shorts at AMC or Regal anytime soon. So the festival is always the best way to see those, in a movie theater where they should be seen.
Yeah.
So again, in general, I would say the local community does value the film, but there's always room for an improvement.
Yeah. And always room for growth and awareness raising. And
absolutely.
So you're not just catering to a built-in audience, but always hoping to expand that audience. And again, even to to a younger set, because it's important for this opportunity to exist for people who are just discovering their love of film and having this opportunity.
Absolutely. And having board members that are faculty at Eastern Washington University, and also other folks involved with the festival who work at other universities as well, Gonzaga, Whitworth, etc., is a good way to reach out to those younger folks. Film students, obviously, of course,
Yeah.
but any other younger students that may have an interest in film beyond, Hollywood, independent art house, foreign. We are always looking to reach out to them and encourage them to participate in not just in coming to the festival, but just in general participating in the film community in Spokane.
Yeah. Well, you're one of your many hats there is as volunteer coordinator, and I'm sure you could. There's always a shortage of volunteers. You can never have. Well, I will say it's probably a good rule of thumb that you can never have too many volunteers, although some might debate that. But yeah, I'm sure it makes your job easier when you have a ready community to draw on and say, hey, can you help out with this?
Absolutely. And SpIFF would be nothing without our volunteers. I will say that. Our volunteers help out not only during the festival itself, the actual festival, but they help us throughout the year with our screening. I begin reaching out to people midsummer usually and saying we're beginning to accept entries for the next year's festival. Do you want to help us screen these films and help us decide what will be shown at SpIFF the next year? And we have a lot of people, repeat folks and new folks who are more than happy to help us with that. And then when it does come time for the festival proper to happen, we have repeat folks who have volunteered with us for years. We have new folks who just moved to the area and found out about the festival and want to help out, or people who have known about the festival and are just deciding, hey, I have time now, I'll volunteer for a shift or two. And yes, we definitely rely on our volunteers to help us pull this off, and we are very grateful for them.
And while we're on this subject of audience and participation, one of the subjects that comes up here or comes up in here a lot is the stigmas, the preconception, the prejudices against a given art form. There's maybe a public perception of an art form being a certain way, and so you get something like classical music, and there is a popular perception like, oh, that's not for me because it's tuxes and stuffy, or jazz, and people say, oh, that's just kind of noise, and so I don't listen to that. And part of that awareness raising is saying, no, it's so much more than that, so much more than the stereotypes. Do you find that there are certain stereotypes or stigmas around just a film festival in general, where you have people assuming, oh, it's going to be esoteric art house stuff, and it's not going to be for me?
Yeah, I would say that there is definitely that stigma. I would say along those lines also, but maybe also along the lines of it's too academic for me. There's going to be all these hoity-toity people who organize this and put it on, and pick all these films that are, they're too intellectual, or they're too, they cover something that I'm not going to care about. We're definitely not that at all. We do pick quality films, but we also like to cater to the broadest audience possible that we can. One of the hardest genres for us to program is comedy. I don't know why, but it tends to be. But actually this year we do have a pretty good comedy. Evergreens does have some comedy in it, but
I was surprised by the humor in Evergreens. I expected it to be a road trip movie that took itself quite seriously, and I was also surprised by how many times I was laughing throughout it. And just they weren't belly laughs, but it was just amusing moments that seemed a very subtle part of it, which was quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then Honey June, also one of our features. That's definitely more of that's also a road trip movie like Evergreens, but that also is a solid comedy that we were able to select this year. So yeah, to your point, film festivals in general do have that stigma of it's too intellectual, it's too esoteric. I'm not going to get it. Why bother going to these things? We are not that at all. We cater to the broadest possible audience that we can. We try to bring in as much programming as we can to cater to the biggest audience possible. We do sometimes focus on certain things, like a number of the Indigenous programs we're doing this year, but we also focus on a number of other things, and then genres. That's a better way to put it. A number of other genres. We have some horror. We have some horror entries this year. Shorts. We have a thriller. We have a world premiere of a thriller this year. I mean, we're always hoping to break that stigma, but it is definitely there.
Yeah, and even with the, Indigenous and mainstream are not mutually exclusive.
Absolutely
and
not.
so a lot of these, even though they deal with Indigenous issues, they're still what I would consider very mainstream movies.
Absolutely.
Evergreens and Tell No One, which is the world premiere that you just mentioned. Again, a thriller, horror/thriller, but there it would be, you can see the mainstream parallels to it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this isn't necessarily, the films that I saw and the films that I'm aware of, they weren't necessarily, the hoity-toity beret-wearing art house philosophizing. I mean, they were movies with a much broader appeal.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about, so I think we've noted a few of the premieres and regional premieres and whatnot, but Tell No One is a world premiere, and this was one that was very largely locally done.
Absolutely. Yeah. The director, Jason McKee, he's been working in the area for over a decade. He's worked on Z Nation. He's done some other shorts that SpIFF has actually shown. But yeah, this is a feature that he's done. It was shot at North by Northwest, actually. So a lot of local filmmakers, local cast and crew. Those folks will be present at the screening on Saturday at the world premiere. We will have the director and cast and crew available for Q&A. But yeah, we are, and just like last year, we had the world premiere of.
Yeah, the names always escape you, but yeah.
Recollection. You think I would recollect? You think I would recollect that? Yeah. We had the world premiere of Recollection as our opening film last year. So this is in the same vein of that was locally shot as well. So we are always wanting to encourage local film and bring it to the attention of the community. And it does definitely have, Tell No One does definitely have the credibility of potentially becoming a Hollywood, maybe not a blockbuster, but at least maybe a good indie darling as it goes out into the festival circuit.
Yeah, and crossing that threshold. And what's so cool about a locally made film like that is, for example, Lonnie Call, who appears in that, makes a kind of cameo appearance. She's actually down at the Civic in their production of. So these are people, I recognized a lot of theater faces. Nike Amuru is another one. A lot of theater faces that, I've seen on local theater stages, and then they make an appearance in something like Tell No One. And interestingly, so Danny Anderson, who was a guest on this, not too long ago, he makes an appearance in Tell No One and is also in Evergreens, playing very different people.
Yeah.
And I also noticed too, and I don't know, I think it's a unifying factor. There's a Toyota Land Cruiser, a red Toyota Land Cruiser that makes an appearance in Tell No One. And then I also noticed it crops up. It is kind of a major character in Evergreens. Oh. I believe it's the same car. It seems pretty distinctive. So
okay.
Yeah, and so it's nice to see these. They're almost like Easter eggs for those who are paying attention, but it also creates that continuity among the films so that you realize these don't exist in isolation. These are part of a larger filmmaking community here.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of local, again, like as you mentioned, stage actors who were in it. There's also a number of local film actors who appear in Tell No One. Rebecca Cook and Patrick Treadway are the two that come to mind for me anyway. Oh, and then of course Danny, of course.
Yeah, and Aubrey Shemek Davis, and there's quite a few. I mean, you just look at that cast list, and you're like, I recognize these folks from either previous films that were shot here, or stage productions.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And another one. So one of the themes, and again, this is something that you had touched on when we were kind of catching up initially. But one of the themes that has just kind of emerged from this is a lot of these films are films about films, or films about filmmaking, or films that are in love with film. Could you talk about and maybe name some of the films that do this, and maybe how it became an unintentional theme of this year's festival?
Yeah, just as I was last night, as I was kind of reviewing everything, this just kind of struck me that this year we have this kind of mini theme about films and filmmaking this year in our selections. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier, Vision Quest, a movie about Spokane, it's about Vision Quest and about filming in Spokane and about how it's important to Spokanites. We have a feature called Magic Hour, which is about a woman who, after some life changes, decides to go to film school and become a filmmaker. One of our shorts in our Queer Shorts program, called Honey, My Love, So Sweet, actually takes place in a movie theater, about these two characters who meet and potentially fall in love in a movie theater. And then one of our last shows that we are screening on the 7th is actually called The Last Picture Shows, which is a documentary about rural movie theaters and how they're closing or on the cusp of closing, and how vital they can be to a community, especially to smaller communities as well. As it kind of talks about in the doc, especially the last 5+ years, there's been this large swath of movie theaters that have closed throughout the country, especially during COVID for obvious reasons. And this documentary covers that. It does feature a number of Washington State theaters as well, but it's definitely for film goers, for people who love film, it is a subject that can hit kind of close to home, that you don't want these things to happen.
Yeah.
You don't want these rural communities to lose these theaters, because they are still beacons for community gatherings. Movie theaters aren't just for showing movies. You can use them for all sorts of community events, and the documentary covers that as well.
And Magic Lantern is going to be hosting Hitchhiker's Theater doing 1984. So you're going to have a theatrical production that is going to maybe lean on the stage in the not too distant future.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about them serving as spaces for community gathering and for more than just movies, I mean, there's a perfect example.
Absolutely, that's right. So it's definitely a subject that. It's definitely a theme. Sorry, to go back. It's definitely a theme that I just happen to notice, that maybe a small meta theme, that our film festival does happen to cover films or filmmaking in a sense.
Yeah, and I think the Last Picture Shows, which and I'm sure this was intentional. This takes its name from the, I think, 1971-ish Peter Bogdanovich film, which was about life in a decaying town, and in a town that had found itself devoid of opportunities.
Yes.
And so it makes a nod and a reference to this,
and it does actually feature interspersed in the film are scenes from the Last Picture Show. Yes. So you're definitely, that was definitely intentional.
Yeah. And but it was chosen to close the festival, and I wonder, is that kind of an urgent reminder as you wrap up on the 8th, and people have attended 2 days, ideally, or 3 days, and taken in all these films? Is it just meant to serve as a reminder of the importance of cinema in general, and even in rural communities, how much they need cinema?
I would say so, definitely. That I personally wasn't involved in scheduling, doing that particular scheduling, but I would say that the folks who did that did pick that intentionally so that it could serve not only as a good capper to the festival, but also as a kind of clarion call to say movie theaters are not dead. The movies are not dead. You don't have to just watch everything at home. Theaters are here. We're here to serve the community. We're here to be a gathering place, not just to serve as a communal experience to see a film, but also as a way to help bring the community together in whatever fashion it needs to be brought together at a particular time.
Yeah, and that might have been a fitting closing note for the conversation as well. But I also want to kind of rewind and talk about a film that I watched and was very much taken with, and this is Our Mr. Matsuura, and this was Frank Matsuura, who had an exhibition at the MAC. I think it was maybe a year ago, maybe 18 months ago. But he was a photographer in the Okanagan or in Okanagan County. Who found his way to this rural community. And I think as we're making the case for cinema as a community building tool within rural communities, here this is an example of photography being a community building tool. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see this documentary, but I think it's really I'm so glad it was included.
That was also a kind of Pete Porter selection. He really championed us selecting this film. It's definitely a good way to not only combine kind of the two disciplines of photography and film, but also is an excellent way to focus on Washington State and the history of Washington State through the lens of this immigrant who had no prior history, obviously, to the area, and how important he did become to establishing and showcasing the history of Washington State as it progressed through the early 1900s.
Yeah, he became kind of a definitive documenter and recorder of so much of the culture, indigenous and otherwise, within that region. And it's just fascinating. And the documentary isn't able to, just because of historical records and the absence of historical records, isn't able to fill in some of these gaps, but maybe trace some of the larger waypoints on this journey. Absolutely. But I think, and again, this also, I think, makes the case for film festivals, because this is a film that would not appear in any of the AMC cinemas. And I don't mean to call out AMC and demonize AMC, but at any rate, it would not make an appearance were it not for things like the Magic Lantern or film festivals bringing this here and saying, pay attention to this maybe unsung hero, or less sung than he should be, of the regional history.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a small documentary. It's definitely not going to be featured on a big marquee anywhere in town, in town, or probably in the country, sadly. But yeah, we are very happy to present it to our patrons and to allow them to learn more about Frank Matsuura, his work, and the importance that he serves to Washington State, to the history of Washington.
And I know that I had made reference to the many hats that you wear, volunteer coordinator being one of them, but you also assist with some of the programming. Are there any things that you are excited about at this year's festival?
Well, one of the programs, just a little bit of a bias on my part because I was involved in the final programming stages of it, are the U.S. shorts. I believe for this particular program, we have a really good mix of. There are some locally made entries in there that we have included, but there are also some from like California, I think Oregon, a few other places. But we definitely tried to have a good mix of things that it kind of starts, with a nice little comedy, and then it kind of goes to an enjoyable but kind of sad little documentary. Then it goes kind of way down to a very high quality, but definitely sad fiction / documentary. And then we kind of work our way back up in mood, and then down a little bit more, and then we end on a really high note, I think, with a short called The Ride, which is basically the history of a vehicle as told from the vehicle's point of view, with Ron Perlman serving as the voiceover.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
No kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we had a very good mix of selection on that. One other, and this is included in the Best of Northwest. We actually have 2 shorts from a local filmmaker, Sean Springer. One of them was his 50-hour slam entry that he won the jury award for last year that we're screening. Another one is a horror short that he directed recently called In Silence, Demons Knock. Actually, the 2 leads actors in that short have won some acting awards at some other film festivals recently. And the short itself won a Best Thriller at the Thea in the Basement Horror Fest. So as we kind of mentioned earlier, coming to SpIFF allows you kind of VIP access to some of these things, not only shorts, but also features that you're going to be able to, that you may not be able to see anywhere else, but also you may be getting a sneak peek of them as they may be coming out in the future and maybe getting awards attention in the future.
Well, also, the point you alluded to just before you made mention of these films was that curated experience and how it's a very deliberate approach to the audience response, to the mood and the temper of some of these films, and so these aren't just thrown together willy-nilly. There's obviously thought behind it and this emotional journey that you can take through a single block of programming.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We had over 300 submissions sent to us this year for the festival. So there is a lot of curating that goes into selecting what we screen. And then once we do have the selections figured, it's kind of a game of Tetris of figuring how do you want to program things to where you're going to maybe have people start off, happy, with a comedy, but then you're going to show them like 5 really sad movies and then maybe give another comedy to end on. That's not really the best way to do a shorts program, at least for mood anyway. You want to try to have it be kind of a up and down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is definitely a very curated process. And again, our volunteers and our programmers, they do a fantastic job. They put in hours upon hours of work to craft these programs for us, to tell us this is what you should show. This is what's of quality. This is what we think audiences in Spokane or in the Inland Northwest should see or they need to see.
Yeah, and hundreds of hours of thought and attention given to the films that will be shown, and then somebody can just take it all in a course of 3 days. And so, nice little concentrated dose there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, it sounds like this the 2026 SpIFF is going to be another strong year, because I know that the years since COVID have been COVID presented its own challenges.
Absolutely.
And so it's a time for community gathering again. So.
Yeah. We're hoping to maybe go back to maybe a fuller schedule at some point in the future, but we feel these 3-day festivals that we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years, they're really the best way to capture the biggest audience that we can, and also still bring in the highest quality films that we're able to get.
Excellent. Well, cool. Yeah, and so the film festival will end on this coda of the last picture shows, and this interview is going to end with the coda of the lightning round, which you are already prepared for. I'm so glad for that. You have no idea about the questions, but the experience itself, you've already braced yourself for. So you will know that the first one is always an either or.
Okay.
Okay. So would you rather live in a real haunted house or in the middle of a desert?
Interesting. Maybe a real haunted house,
Okay.
if only because it might. It's definitely going to be different every day. I'm sure. Whatever's haunting the place would definitely be a different experience every day.
Is horror your genre of choice? Are you a bit of a horror junkie?
I personally gravitate towards the horror and sci-fi genre, yes.
Okay.
But I definitely enjoy all sorts of films, action, comedy, drama, the whole gamut. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, horror and sci-fi. I have seen a whole bunch of those.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that the haunted, the real haunted house might be next to a cinema, whereas if you're living in the middle of a desert, you're not going to get that. So
That's true.
okay. So time machines are a very popular feature of the lightning round. I'm curious what period you would go to if you had only one trip in a time machine. What would be your period or era of choice?
So I can only go to the one.
You've got got a time machine, but it's only got one back and forth journey in it.
I can come back.
Yeah,
okay,
you can come back.
That was my question.
But it's like you've got to choose one era to visit.
The future.
How far? Yeah, how far are you going to go? 20 years, 50 years, 100 years?
I could say the Back to the Future answer and say 30 years. It's a nice round number. Probably at least 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to
see what's up.
see what's up. See if we're still around.
Yeah. It's crazy how that seems to be that existential question seems more and more pressing these days.
But no, I've actually thought about that for if anyone ever asked me the question, I've always wanted to go to the future, just to see how things turn out.
Well, you're a sci-fi fan, so you know it makes sense, I think.
Well, I'm hoping at some point in the future I'm going to have my an actual hoverboard, not the fake one with the wheels, an actual hoverboard that I was promised back in 1989.
Yeah, we're supposed to have flying cars and all sorts of things, but it's interesting. When time machines do enter the lightning round questions, folks are usually a little apprehensive about the future, and so most people want to go to the past. I can't remember offhand people wanting to go to the future, so I praise your adventurousness.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I can see the romanticism of wanting to go back into the past. I mean, there's been plenty of movies about going back into the past, but you tend to cause too many problems when you do that. Going to the future, you don't tend to cause too many ripples that can't be fixed.
Yeah. And if you go into the future, then that could be that presence could be part of the timeline, or more easily integrated into the timeline than going to the past. So
Absolutely.
I get you there. I like the space-time continuum consideration. So are you when you're on the road, are you the person who is going the speed limit in the travel lane, or are you the person who is passing on the right?
I'm probably going the speed limit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a rules-oriented guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. I always find comfort in rules and procedures. So, not that I don't like unpredictability, but it's sometimes not the most comfortable thing to deal with. But yeah, it's usually better just to follow the rules of the road and not you don't usually have too many problems if you do.
Yeah. Cool. Well, again, I'm pleased by your attention to safety. Yeah. I would rather be behind the person going the speed limit in the travel lane. Finally, we cannot not talk about movies. And so I'm wondering if there is a movie that obviously you rewatch films. I mean, that goes without saying. Is there a movie that always makes you laugh or always makes you cry?
I'll go with the one that always makes me cry. There's actually a few. I don't. Everyone talks about it very much. The ones that usually make me cry, because of the endings. The one is Field of Dreams,
Okay. Okay.
and the other is Titanic.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And actually, there's a third one recently that this is the first time it's ever happened. There was a screening of Cocoon that the Garland did here a little while ago that I was tearing up at during the ending. I don't know why, never really happened before, but maybe it's because I am getting older. But yeah, that did get me there.
Yeah, it's hard to watch Cocoon and not reflect on your own mortality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it plenty as a kid, and it never really bothered me all that much.
Yeah, but your value
now-
system is so different as a kid. Yeah.
but now, but definitely now, yeah, it's yeah.
And always consistently Titanic.
Yeah, it's
Even though that's the one movie that everybody knows how it ends before they even enter the theater.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
No, it just I'm not sure why.
Well, I mean, it's a sentimental moment.
Yeah, absolutely. For something that makes me laugh all the time, I mean, there's plenty of comedies that do that. Kind of the first one that comes to mind at the moment is Being There from 1979.
Peter Sellers? Yeah.
The Hal Ashby film. I've seen it multiple times. I mean, it's not an uproarious, it's not the hangover. It's not like
it's a subtle British comedy.
It's a subtle film. Well, yeah, it's a very subtle film. It's subtle humor, but it's a one joke premise, but it's played perfectly throughout the entire 2+ hours. And it gets me. I just laugh every time at every little thing. Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, I find that I can't not laugh at the original Naked Gun. It puts me in stitches every single time. Leslie Nielsen battling the towel, and it's just yeah.
Yep. And that was one of the better movie experiences I had last year, was seeing the new Naked Gun. Just as a studio comedy, you don't really get much of those nowadays. So having that actually in the theater and seeing it with a pretty full theater, pretty full crowd on the day I went, it was great.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to more absurdist comedies and slapstick comedies making their way into the festival circuit too.
If we can get them, I would absolutely love if we could get one of those.
Cool. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming in today and talking about this. And obviously we haven't been able to visit with every single film and do a synopsis of every single film, but I'm pleased with the ground that we were able to cover.
Absolutely. Yeah. The schedule is on the festival website now. It's fully up for everyone to look at. Tickets are on sale. We still have passes available. So please, I encourage everyone to check that out, and whatever is of interest to you to come and see, we are more than happy to have you come and be a patron, and hopefully a repeat patron.
Cool.